Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents the Bump Guard Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Brian, and with me tonight is my tag partner, Psycho. How you doing tonight, Psycho?
I am doing fantastic. I don't know. It feels like that time of year, you know?
I'm already rolling my eyes because I already know how this is going to go, and it just hurts my soul. But we will talk about it. That being said, guys, what a crazy weekend for wrestling. Survivor Series was amazing. We're going to go ahead and review all the matches and talk about all the events, including the big one at the end. But we're going to wait to the end to talk about that one because that's going to take a lot of time. Because, I mean, the man I'm with cannot not bust a nut every time he thinks about CM Punk. So, that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this, Psycho. What was the first match we got?
So we actually started with the women's war games. We had Bianca Belair, Shotzi, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch versus Asuka, Bayley, Kairi Sane, and Io Sky. So we
Did you say Kairi Sane?
Kairi Sane.
Sorry. There you go.
Sorry. You know how I am with the Japanese names. I'm just
names in general, bro.
Yeah, pretty much. I know one name to pronounce, but so anyway, so we actually started with Bayley and Becky, which is appropriate, I feel, because they're two ring generals that can start at the beginning and lead everybody else through it. And they have the most experience probably out of everybody that's in there. Yep. Other than maybe one other, but this match it started good. I don't remember who came in at what order. I'm kind of looking at my card, but so it was kind of it was a good match though. I feel like I'm not going to call everything that happened in it, but I felt like this was an enjoyable War Games. The only thing the main thing though is that they've kind of resorted to these War Games matches where instead of it being like kind of a, two factions that hate each other or something like that, they use a lot of plunder. They bring out the ladders and the weapons and the tables and the, Singapore canes and what have you. And it seems more like just a hardcore match inside a double cage. And so I like the format of War Games, but it's also very different than what it used to be.
Yes.
And I thought the work was good. I thought everybody worked really hard in this one, and I don't have a lot of problems with it. I feel like there's no way that a team like Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Bianca Belair, anybody that has those three on their team, I didn't think for a second that that team was going to lose, and they did not. So, I don't know. I'm trying to remember some exact spots. I think a big spot was I think it was Io Sky that was up on top of the cage and put a trash can on themselves while standing on top of the cage, and then leapt off into basically taking out everybody.
Yep.
And so that was a really cool spot. I thought that was a very I thought it was an awesome spot, but at the same time, I'm sure I've mentioned how much I hate where the wrestlers just kind of stand there forever while they're kind of setting up the spot. And it would have probably made more sense kayfabe wise if she leapt off and everybody just kind of parted like Samoa Joe does, and she just kind of splat in the middle of the ring.
That would have sucked with the king.
Oh, it would have sucked. It would have sucked big time. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, if this, if that was legit, I mean, they had plenty of time to move.
Yeah.
They saw what she was doing, and she couldn't see. So yeah. I thought it was a good match. So what did you think of the match?
I thought for the most part it was fine. It hit all the beats it needed to. To touch on a couple of things you mentioned, though, one, the spot with the O is with the can is actually a callback to the war game she did in NXT, where she did the same thing, exact same spot with the can and everything else. And I believe that's the second time she did it. She did a different can spot in one of the war games she was in. She actually has the record for being in the most war games. I can't remember of all time or of modern era, but she's been in like 5 war games.
Okay, I gotta say that's probably for the women or modern era, because I mean, Ric Flair's been in a lot of war games.
Well, women for sure.
Yeah,
but I can't remember if it was modern era or not. But yeah, and then there's a spot at the end of the match. It's actually the finish of the match where Charlotte goes to give Kairi Sane, spear, and Bailey pushes her out of the way. Now, on the weeklies going into this, they were having a lot of conflict. Those two specifically about Kyrie joining Damage Control and without the approval of Bailey and stuff like that. So Bailey making the save, but then eventually taking the pin is adding storyline stuff for them, where it seems like they might be working towards making it not only is Bailey going to be kicked out of Damage Control, but she might be getting a face turn coming soon, which is a story that they're telling towards the end of this match, which I really did like. But that being said, the one thing I disliked about this match, especially in comparison to the War Games match later, is there really wasn't a story. Outside of that little small bit, there wasn't story built into it. It was literally just go in there and beat the snot out of each other. And then one last thing, tying something you mentioned, the thought about having the hardcore match inside of 2 cages. The modern era of wrestling, when it comes to gimmick matches, it's ostensibly that you do tables, ladders, and chairs, and now kendo sticks inside of whatever the gimmick is, right? So if you look at the most recent Hell in the Cells, especially the women's ones, they were heavy on kendo sticks and tables and chairs and stuff like that. But you compare that against, say, Undertaker and Shawn, or Undertaker and Mick, they didn't have any of that. They just used the gimmick of the match, and that was it. So it's more of a modern era thing and less of the match thing. You also get that later on in the men's war games as well. But outside of that, it hit all the beats that it needed to do. It fulfilled what it came out to do, which was have a match in 2 rings with being wrapped around the cage. Did it story for really everybody? No, it put story for really one person, and outside of that, it did nothing else right away. Well, I guess 2, because they did the sorry, I keep cutting you off. They did the story where they have Becky and Charlotte kind of rekindle their friendship.
Right.
But that was it.
Right, that was a big thing too, for sure. I really wish that they'd use the war games where the cage itself is really the weapon, right? Where they get creative with the cage, and they use the cage to inflict damage and that sort of thing, and show hatred, for the other team. I feel like there needs to be more like, these 2 teams hate each other and they're going to beat the tar of each other, but it's more about the aggression towards each other than using, the hardcore aspect of the weapons and things. Because where do they find all these weapons? It's like they're just in the ring, under the ring. Sorry, I have hiccups.
They're always under the ring,
right?
Always,
and it's just like, okay, I don't know. It's like, it's one thing when you have a chair under there, maybe a table, but when you've got, the kendo sticks and whatever else under there, it's like, come on. It's like, I don't know. It's It is what it is, I guess. But um, anything else on this match that you want to talk about?
Not really. Like I said, it did what it said. It said on the tin, but it didn't really push anyone's stuff going forward.
Mhm.
Like something like this, honestly, I think should be almost like a pre-Road to WrestleMania style thing to build towards that, because the next big paper we got coming up is the Rumble, and that it's the beginning of the Road to WrestleMania. This should really have done that. That should have built something into that, or cap it off so that we have a clean slate going into that, right? I didn't feel like it did either. The only thing I would say is maybe Bailey gets a face turn out of this, and then you have Charlotte and Becky befriending each other, and then I would guess that they probably work towards having the women's tag titles, just to put a little bit of name recognition on that, if that's what they end up doing with these two, which might be a good way to do that and have something fresh and new for WrestleMania for the women's titles.
Yeah,
but that's the only thing I could see coming out of this, where again later on there's a lot more. So
I feel like that's if they put like Becky and Charlotte in the tag title picture, I feel like that's a good use of them. It keeps them like in a story, so to speak, but it keeps them away from the main title, so somebody else can kind of get that shine, because they've kind of dominated that for years now. And so I feel like that's a good use of them at this point, because you're still using that star power, and it adds a shine to the tag titles for the women. So
which that desperately needs. I mean,
yes.
Chelsea Green and Piper Niven are doing a good job, but they have everyone they go against, you don't feel like there's a chance, right?
Right.
They just had a match on Raw against Tegan Knox and Natalia, and there was no threat in that match.
Right.
But let's say that they do a tag match going into that WrestleMania, and let's say that Chelsea and Piper Niven retain at WrestleMania.
Right.
That would be huge for those two and the title.
So. Yeah. So next, before we get to the next match, I do want to mention a little skit that they. A couple of skits that were backstage where they had the Alpha Academy enjoying some Ruffles, which was one of the sponsors of the show, and then we saw the return of R-Truth here,
Yes.
and it was a great spot where he came in and was kind of putting over the Ruffles, but also kind of being goofy like he is, and it was a great reemergence of R-Truth, because I think that he really shines in those types of backstage skits. I think that especially at his age is a good role for him.
Well, you saw what he did on Raw, the following Raw, right?
I didn't.
Okay, so he had two major skits.
Parts of Raw, but
okay, so they had a special guest on Raw, Jelly Roll. He's a country singer, and so you had a bunch of people who were in a tag match gauntlet to determine number one contender for the tag titles, and they were all like talking stuff to each other, and Jelly Roll rolls up, boom, 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 and as they're talking about that he's a multi-platinum award-winning artist, Jelly Roll, and then R-Truth runs in and goes, "Hey, I'm here to go get some of those multi-platinum award-winning Jelly Rolls. Did you guys see them yet?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm right here." He goes, "No, not you, brother, not you. I'm looking for the Jelly Rolls. Now where's catering?" And he runs off and eventually goes fights catering. And then later on, after some stuff that goes on with Judgment Day, you had Damian Priest and McDonough rolling into their clubhouse, and R-Truth is sitting on the couch covered in powdered sugar or something, and a massive platter of jelly rolls he found at catering or something, and the couch is covered in powdered sugar and everything else. And they're like, "What are you doing?" Freaking out. He goes, he's like, "Oh yeah, jelly rolls." He tries to offer one to these guys. Says, no. And he goes, "Hey, I heard you guys needed a fifth member for your War Games match at Survivor Series. Just to let you know, I'm down to help you out. I got your guys' back." Like, true, that already happened. He's like, "Oh, my bad. How did you guys do?" And then before they answer, he goes, "Wait. How did I do?" It's that stupid stuff. He does it so well, and he's such he's so honest with his comedy with that stuff. It's what's so good with it.
Yes, that's the perfect. He can have a career in WWE for years just doing those types of skits, and he doesn't, I think he's kind of missed the peak of what he could have been, but I feel like that's a perfect lane for him. So
one of my favorite ones with him, a skit, like it was not even a skit, it was a legit thing, but it was one of the stupid moments for him. It was years ago. He gets called out in the Rumble, like halfway through the Rumble, but there's like 3 people in the ring. He runs over to the apron, flips the apron up, pulls out this 20-foot long, like 20-foot tall ladder, throws it in the ring, sets it up, starts climbing, and boom, reaches up for the title and realizes it's not there, thinking it's Money in the Bank in the middle of the Rumble. So dumb. It was so funny.
Yes. So yeah, it's funny, and good stuff from R-Truth there. And then they had a backstage segment where Sami Zayn and Jey Uso were getting worried about Randy Orton not showing up, for the War Games match, and that was kind of a theme for the night of if he was going to show up or not. Because of his issues with Jey Uso in the past, because Jey Uso was part of the bloodline that took Orton out. So our next match was for the Intercontinental title, Gunther defending against The Miz. And this was way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a styles clash of like how, Gunther is very stiff in the ring, Miz is not. And so I was wondering how, who would be adapt, and I actually earned so much, like I already respected The Miz, but I earned so much more respect for him in this match. I realized that he can work with anybody. Like any style. He brings his, he puts on his working boots and he can wrestle with anybody. And they kind of told the story here of Miz was trying to go for the record of the most Intercontinental title reigns ever. It was held by, Chris Jericho. And they told a good story here. Miz, was going for the leg, and they were chopping the crap out of each other, and it was kind of a stiff match, and they made, my favorite part of this was Gunther made Miz a sympathetic babyface, where the crowd was chanting for Miz and cheering for him, and he usually is not a babyface. So to see the crowd completely behind the Miz there was odd, but it was, I don't know if it's like, oh, Miz is doing a good job as the babyface, or if Gunther is that well of a heel that anybody that goes up against him, they just have to tell that story of the underdog basically trying to take out Goliath, basically. And then they actually had a really good near fall here where it looked like The Miz was going to win the title. Where he hits the skull crushing finale on Gunther. And the crowd kind of bought that Miz might win this one and be the one to kind of break Gunther's streak here and end that reign. But then Gunther basically hits him with a top rope splash and finishes, which was really interesting. He finished with the Walls of Jericho. So he started with the Boston Crab, and then he knelt way back like old school Jericho right onto Miz, and Miz taps out. And really, really strong match. And Gunther looks like $1,000,000, and Miz got him over, even more over. And yeah, Miz looked good too. It doesn't hurt Miz at all to lose in this fashion to Gunther.
No. In fact, I think it reinvigorates him when he has matches like this, because people forget how well he could go if he's got the right opponent, right? I mentioned this to other people when I have matches with more experienced people, and people are always surprised where I'm like, they're like, "Oh wow, you did this or you did this." It's like, well, it's a huge difference, right? I'm limiting myself when I'm working against somebody green, and we have so many green people. I don't often get to go with these other people, but when I do, you see a different side, and I think that's the same thing in this case. Like, the Miz is often used, especially lately, as a tool to help put some investment into somebody new, right? And like, I think how like the Logan Paul match they had, which was a really good match for both him and Miz, or Paul and Miz, and it was not the Miz's most technical match. He didn't go out there and do anything crazy. He did a basic Miz match, but it was to get Paul over without really trying to put that much work on Paul. But when you have somebody like Gunther who can go and have these great matches and things like that, you give that ability. It's something to be said, man, that like the Miz can work with anybody. He's almost like a Kurt Angle in that aspect, but people never seem to look at him that way.
Yeah, it's Gunther is really putting he's making the Intercontinental title like really credible right now too. I mean, he's made that title important again. Where now, for the longest time, the Intercontinental title would be like, sometimes it wouldn't even make the pay-per-views or the shows, and it was just kind of an afterthought. And he's made it where now it's like whoever beats Gunther for that title is going to be a made man. So it's elevating Gunther where he's going to be seen as a main event guy.
As soon as he's done with this run, he'll be in the main event. I wouldn't be surprised if he there's the thing right now, people are wanting that at the Rumble, have him drop the IC title to someone probably like Chad Gable and then win the Rumble.
I don't,
instead of having this is the suggestion. This is not what I think will happen either. But the suggestion is having him win it, because it came down to him and Cody last year. Right. Have it come down to those two again, but Gunther go over after just losing the IC title. But have him go against Seth, and then Cody wins the Elimination Chamber to go against Roman.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors out there that we'll get into, but I don't think it's time for Gunther yet. That's the problem, is like they have 2 world titles, but they have a lot of star power now that's got a lot of people that are hot going into WrestleMania. And I could see him more keeping the Intercontinental title until WrestleMania at least, and dropping it there, and then being a challenger to one of the other 2 titles coming out of WrestleMania. I see that. I can see that likely.
Too. What I would see though, and I know what you're thinking, with the other name.
We'll get to it.
Yeah. In fact, let's put a pin in this, and we'll come back to it at the end.
Okay.
All right, next match.
Okay, so the next match, we've got Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. Okay, and it was a good match. I think it was a solid win for Santos Escobar. I hadn't seen a lot of Dragon Lee, to be honest. And so it was actually a big deal for both of these guys to have this slot on the pay-per-view on Survivor Series, because it's a big 4 pay-per-view, and they brought it. It was a good match, and it did what it served its purpose. You had Santos getting his first big win as a heel here, and now he can move on. I know it was supposed to be Carlito here, and then they switched it, but I think Santos Escobar needed a win here, a statement win, and I feel like that's what he got. And it Carlito didn't need to be in that spot just yet. I feel like they can build to that match and make that a bigger deal. Or maybe they have a spot in the Rumble, those two or something, and Ray and whatever. I feel like they can build to that, and maybe that's your WrestleMania match. I don't know how Ray's injured. How long is he going to be out for?
He's supposed to be out. He's supposed to be out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, 6 to 8 weeks,
which will get him back at Rumble.
Okay,
but what I would see happening is ostensibly that.
Mhm.
So now they had Dragon Lee out because they did the he injured Carlito thing. Carlito will be back.
Right.
I can see them building Carlito and that Santos to work to the Rumble.
Mhm.
And have a match at the Rumble.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then Ray come back right after, or come back during the Rumble or something like that. Santos comes out after Sun's big win, is in the Rumble. Ray comes out the Rumble, and they take each other out or something like that, right?
I feel like
and
that's
then they build,
probably the WrestleMania matches is
Santos
Santos
Ray
against Ray.
Santos.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the direction. And Ray would make a perfect spot there to make a big return in the Rumble as a surprise or whatnot. They can easily do that. That's kind of what the Rumble's for.
With the Dragon Lee thing, Dragon Lee is a good stand-in for Ray. One, both Ray and a lot of other people touted that he's the new generation Rey Mysterio that Dragon Lee is, or he's the next Rey Mysterio. So it's kind of a good stand-in for him there. And then having Carlito be the next guy, that's a huge obstacle to go against, and have him beat Carlito and then go against Ray at WrestleMania. I think that's a great way to build Santos. And to be honest with you, I would have Santos beat Ray at WrestleMania.
Oh, I would too. Ray doesn't need the win. Santos would help him tremendously to get a big win like that at WrestleMania against Ray. So fun match though. Then the next match we have the women's world title, Rhea Ripley against Zoe Stark, Utah's own Zoe Stark.
True. We were talking about this as the match started. This is probably the biggest spot that a person from Utah as a wrestler, at least in our era of wrestling, has ever had. Right?
Yeah.
That spot formerly being held by Martin Chrysalis. Now Teresa's got this, man. Zoe Stark. She's been killing it right now in WWE. And this match, I don't think this match made her, but I think it put more eyes on her, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, it's a big 4 pay-per-view, or premium live event, whatever. It's whatever. I'll always call them pay-per-views, whatever.
Yeah, understand.
But I feel like, it was a big spotlight for her, and I thought this match was a little sloppy at times, if I'm being honest. But they both came out of this looking like stars. And so I feel like Zoe Stark's I feel like they're high on her, and I feel like they're going to keep pushing her, and this is just kind of the start for her. But it's Rhea's time, and I feel like, she's going to carry that title all the way to WrestleMania, and have a big match at WrestleMania. I'm not sure against who at this point. But yeah, I feel like it's Rhea's time, and she looked like a star in this match.
I have an idea who it's going to be at WrestleMania, and I don't like it.
Who what's the rumor? Or what's your thought?
The person making their official debut at Royal Rumble to win the Women's Royal Rumble, and then the face Rhea at WrestleMania to beat her at WrestleMania will be none other than Jade Cargill.
I hadn't thought of that. I don't know if she's ready yet for that. I don't know.
They are very high on Jade right now.
They are, but I mean, when you hear Triple H talk about her in the press conferences, because they keep asking about her, and he basically says, she's training, she's getting her better every day, and when she's ready, then we'll be ready. But I feel like they're still making sure that she's TV ready, because having those squash matches in AEW is one thing, but to actually have a competitive 20-minute women's match or 15-20-minute women's match especially if they were going to have her go to WrestleMania to do it against Rhea, I feel like they want to make sure she's absolutely ready so that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She looks like a star and she doesn't flop coming out of the gates. And
I think that's what they're hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the amount of money they gave her, plus what they're doing for her, because they're doing something special too. So she's not even going to the PC.
Mm-hmm.
She's got her own training facility with her own trainers that are coming to her place near her place in Florida. That's not the PC, like a secondary PC.
I heard she's training at the Nightmare Factory.
No, yeah, she's not in Nightmare. She's in Florida. I was just heard about this morning.
Okay.
But she's got her own place in Florida. She's doing her training at.
Did you see her? Did you see her post where she was training and Ricky Starks showed up to train with her? Did you see this? She posted this on, I think, Instagram or something, and said, "Look who showed up," and Ricky Starks was there in a ring with her.
Oh wow!
So, I mean, but the reason I thought it was the Nightmare Factory is because they had a big banner of Cody Rhodes in the background, and so
she might have been at Nightmare during that. But the reports right now is she's got her own training set up down in Florida. That's like a secondary PC.
Gotcha. So she's probably getting private training. From somebody.
So they're very high on her. I think their plan is to make her the new Rhea, and go that route. But that's what I think it's going to end up doing. So
maybe I could definitely see her debuting in the Rumble.
Yeah. I think that this match for Zoe and Rhea was very good for what it was. And like I said before, I put a lot of eyes on them, but this match for what it was and what they did in it, this could have been a main event for the weekly and not had to be on the Survivor Series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they wanted to put shine on Zoe, I think, as a child, and they needed a top challenger for Rhea because she's beating everybody, and so I feel like they needed somebody. And I don't think it hurts Zoe Stark that much. I feel like it helped her more than hurt her to take the loss here in a big profile match like that.
I don't disagree, but I don't think Zoe's there. Like, at no point in time did I ever think that the match, there was anything to worry about this match, right?
Right.
And because of how Zoe is, and again, there's nothing wrong with what Zoe's doing. I just don't think she's at that point yet. But they're trying to build her quickly up to there. I would have liked to have seen Shayna Baszler in the spot instead of Zoe.
Maybe.
I feel like she's a bigger threat for that title. Like, she feels more likely to take it, more likely to have won it over what Zoe would have.
Maybe.
So,
yeah, we'll see. So then we've got we're up to the main event.
that was fast.
Yep. Well, this was honestly, in my opinion, this was a 2-match show as far as the build goes for it, right?
It's like the Rumble.
Yep, it was all about War Games. And so you've got Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest against Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, and Randy Orton. We would see, because he was not there to start. And they really played that up. He wasn't there to start. You actually had Finn and Seth Rollins started this, I believe.
Yes.
And again, that's two guys that I feel like they like to put two guys in the match that have the stamina to last the whole thing, right? And that can carry that workload. And which is good, because then it doesn't start, with two dull people. Not that there's a lot of that in here, but they did good there. Again, I'm not going to recap everybody's order that they came in and whatnot. I thought this one, I feel like the main story of this match was, there was two stories. Obviously, is Randy going to show up, or are they going to be a man down? They milked that the whole match, or really all night. And then the other story of this match is Drew McIntyre wanting to, really get in there with Jey Uso, and kind of he's still upset about the whole bloodline thing. And that's kind of, what they did. And they had a spot where, it was time for one of the heels to, to come out to the ring, and Drew McIntyre was going to step out, and Damian Priest stopped him, and basically was like, that's not part of the plan. We stick to the plan. And he decided, Damian Priest went out and held Drew McIntyre back. And it was really funny, because I thought that when I saw that, I thought that those were the only two, but there was Dominic Mysterio like hiding in the background, and like the other two towered over him, so kind of like covered him, so you didn't even see him back there. So it was kind of funny, but I thought this match was better in that sense of, it told a better story of everything they were doing with the match. And there were some really good spots in here. But again, you had Cody Rhodes at one point have a bull rope in the match. It's like, where does this come from? It's like, I don't even apparently that was under the ring too. It would have been funny then if it was there all night, if the women pulled it out, since it was apparently there to use. But right. The big thing in this match is, so once everybody was out there, everybody supposedly, other than the last person from the babyfaces who was not there, the countdown counted, and then Rhea Ripley runs out with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and it looks like she's going to, cash it in for Damian Priest, and he was going to turn this match somehow into a title match, kind of like how Seth Rollins did with at WrestleMania years ago. I don't know how that would have made it. Would it have just been a match between those two in there, or would it have been like anybody can pin Seth now because it's a trip, or I don't even know what match that would have been, like a 10-man match. And then it would have
been, I think it would still have been the singles match, and right. Then continuing at the other match, because technically, until that last person gets in, the match never starts.
Right, that's true. So yeah, it would have been interesting, but we didn't have to find out how that was going to all work, because as soon as she goes to do that, the music hits and Randy Orton comes out, and he came out to a pretty good pop from the crowd. They were really excited to see him, and Randy Orton's the smartest person in like the whole match, because he comes out like Dominic, races after him first, and Randy takes him out, and basically Randy Orton takes no bumps. He's all offense on everybody. I don't even think he took a move from anybody. It was just him dominating and everything. And then JD McDonough tried to escape up the cage, and was it Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins that went up
Yes.
after him? And they tossed him. They milked it first really good because he tries to escape, and they Randy Orton's in the middle of the ring, and they toss him down from the top of the cage into an RKO, which was a really good spot, because I mean that's a far up drop, taking a face bump too.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really well done though. And then Damian Priest walks into Cody Rhodes and gives him the what do they call that? The roll of the dice? Crossroads. That's right, crossroads. So it hits him with the crossroads and pins him, and the baby faces win. You know, there was no chance, I feel like, Randy Orton was going to return and not win the match.
Yeah. But there was so much story there in that match, and a variety of different stories, right? So let's start off with Drew McIntyre, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're paying attention to this match when you guys watch it back, Drew very rarely ever touches anybody but Jey Uso. He only focuses on Jey the whole match, right? And then going through the match, when it comes down to the 4-on-5 before Rhea comes out, Seth, Sami, and Cody all take moves from the top rope. Splash, double stomp, and the leapfrog. As leapfrog on Seth. Then right after they've already put the table up, that's right when they give the Razor's Edge through the table to Seth, and that's when they tell Rhea to come out, right, and have that all come that way. But at the part with the bull rope, right? So going into this match, you had Cody and Seth who couldn't trust each other, but only needed to trust each other for one day, right? Because of their history over the last 2 years since Cody's been back, with those great matches that they had and everything else like that. And not that they buried the hatchet, but you could see the animosity against each other, but then they worked it out. When Randy finally does come out, right, he bumps everybody, and he's getting ready to hit Damian Priest with a move, like he's going to hit with an RKO, and Jey Uso's to his left, and he then turns like he's going to strike on Jey Uso, and Jey looks at him, and Randy's like, I remember what you did, what you guys all did to me. I remember what the bloodline did to me. And Jay's like, that's not me anymore. That's not me. And then he pushes Randy to the side and gives super kick to Damian Priest. Like he saves Randy from getting attacked, right? Which they tie in Monday. On Monday, they have a bury the hatchet moment with the two, which was nice. And then the last little bit of the story, right, is after the RKO from the top, Damian Priest doesn't go into Cody. Damian Priest kind of bumps into Randy. Randy grabs him, tosses him to Cody, and says, all right, you take it. Do this for your dad. Because it's Randy Orton, or Cody Rhodes' dad created War Games, right? And it's a whole mentor-mentee thing that they do. It was a very beautiful moment with the two, and then he does the crossroads and goes for the pin. There's a ton of story built into this match that's just so sweet in how everything's done. I very much enjoyed this War Games match for the story, and this is probably one of my more favorite War Games matches I've seen in the modern era because of how much great story was in this match.
Yeah, it was kind of formulaic, but it was also really well done, and it did tell a good story. It ended, and you basically, somebody mentioned that it was kind of they mentioned to Cody Rhodes later that it was kind of like the Avengers being in there, because you had such a strong so many over baby faces in the ring on that side. It was almost like earlier in the night with the women, right, with Becky and Charlotte and Bianca Belair, that kind of star power, You know, when you have Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, all these guys majorly over.
All those guys who lost to
Roman
the
Reigns,
tribal chief over the last 3.5 years.
Yeah, every single one of them, right? I mean, I don't know if Randy Orton has actually faced. Did he?
Yeah, when they were doing that bloodline gimmick, before he got injured with the thing, they had a match.
I thought that they were going to, but
they were building to that match.
Yeah, they were building
right.
to it, and Orton got injured before they could do it.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, he kind of dodged that, but yeah. So then they raise hands and the credits roll and the show's over, or so we thought.
And then it wasn't.
So I thought it was over because it was like, okay, it was a good show, but it was kind of like nothing too important happened. It was like, okay, Randy Orton came back, but we all kind of already knew that.
Well,
right?
Before you go on, it's exactly the kind of show you need for Survivor Series. I mentioned earlier that building into the Rumble and the Rumble doing the road to WrestleMania, the Survivor Series needs to be a capper for most of the bigger storylines so that they can build to WrestleMania. And that's exactly what you got here. Most every match, except for match with Santos Escobar, were cappers, right? For the storyline that was going. Only Santos was the one that should proceed from this point on. Until the end.
Yes. And then, just when it was about to go off the air, the music and the video wall came up, and we hear, "Look in my eyes, what do you see? Cult of personality." All right.
Do not give up your day job.
Oh my gosh, when the music hit, I mean, you can attest to it. I was losing my what, right?
Yeah, that part of my couch is still wet from you.
I was like, I told you so. I told you so. But I had to see it because I was like, okay, are they trolling us? Are they, I thought earlier, like when Randy Orton wasn't there, I was telling you like, oh, this is it. Somebody's going to take out Orton or something and take their spot, or they're going to need to call somebody else. And then when Orton came out, I was like, okay, I guess not. And then when the credits were about to roll, I thought it was over. But earlier in the night, earlier in the day, I texted you, and it was like, happy CM Punk returns day. And you, what did you text me back?
I said, now I have to go to the ER because my eyes rolled so hard. It was like I was in a match with Stan Hansen.
Yeah, and I texted you back, and I was like, I thought you were serious there for a moment. I thought I was like, oh no, show's off. He had to go to the ER or something, right? But I'm sure at the time when you texted me that, you're like, oh, let it go. He's not showing up. He's not showing up. There's no way.
Everything up to that point stated that there wasn't a chance. Even WWE said that wasn't going to happen, right? Because they had trolled us well enough. And I can't even say they trolled us because, like, one, the deal was literally inked that day. And two, there wasn't even serious talks about it until there was tons of rumors about it. It's like all of the punkers who are out there that are like the big old punk stands that wanted Punk to be there put it into existence, including you into this, by the way.
Oh yeah, well,
y'all put that concept into existence.
Well, Triple H said, it's like it came together because the fans wanted it, right? And so, and he gave us what we wanted. And
see, he said well, he really should have said some.
Yeah, well, did you hear the pop?
It's Chicago.
I'm just saying, it was thunderous, like one of the biggest pops I've ever heard. I think it was bigger than when he made his AEW debut. Like it was so loud, like it was like everybody collectively crapped themselves. right? Because they could not believe it. It was the end of the show. We thought it was going to be it. The music hit. And then even with the music hit, I thought they were trolling us again, like, oh, somebody else is going to come out. It's going to be some other heel, maybe Grayson Waller or something, and he's trolling us or whatever.
That would have been amazing. Oh my God. I would have died.
You would have, you would have laughing hysterically at me.
Oh my God. I would have fallen in love right then and there with Grayson Waller. if they would have done that, like, I don't care if CM Punk's back. Like, they could have totally kept CM Punk back and then have him come show up on Monday and have him do a storyline with Grayson Waller for stealing his shtick. Right. But if they would have had Grayson Waller,
he would have got.
Oh my God, I would have been Chicago? All about that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I know a lot of people are happy with Punk, and I'm not terribly upset that Punk's back. Right? I would have loved that 300,000 times more.
Yeah, and so, but I had to see it with my own eyes. And then when he walked out, when CM Punk actually walked out, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they did it. And the crowd too, like, they were already a thunderous roar. And then as soon as they saw him, it went to another level. It was like, I'm almost there. Oh, yeah, it's everywhere. Anyway, keeping this PG, but he comes out and he just does a stare down. That's all he needed to do. And then he does it's clobbering time, but he starts it, and then the crowd says it for him, and it was so loud. And then he goes over and hugs everybody, and the crowd's so happy to see him. It was amazing. And I honestly, it was like Christmas to me. It was like that's one of my favorite moments of this entire year. Like, bar none. It's something I never thought we'd see happen again. And it happened. And I guess we have to thank, we have to thank Tony Khan. We have to thank, Jack Perry. I mean, yeah, we have to.
Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. Apparently, Bryan Danielson, for being on the.
He was in the committee. He wasn't the only guy there.
Yeah, I guess
he was part of the committee.
Right, and it's funny though that his name is the one that was leaked. Right, it's like somebody threw him under the bus. I don't think it was him. So
no, God, no. And like, we don't know, right? Like, we don't know if he was the one to be like, get him the hell out of here, or if he's like, no, let's talk this out, let's work a thing out, but everyone else outvoted him. Like, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
anyhow.
It's interesting to me though, because him and Punk have always been really close. Like, they've fought, like, so I feel like that friendship might be fractured now, with that rolling out. You know how Punk takes these things.
Well, I guess that's true. Punk's Punk, but like, it's hard. Recently had a scenario involving one of the now former DCW members, or wrestlers that I was involved in the exact same scenario, right? And it's hard to do that to somebody that you know, but knowing that you have to do what's right. And I think that's where Bryan Danielson would have been involved in that scenario. Hopefully, Punk would have been the bigger man to be like, I understand where you're at, and I'm not going to be upset with you, but who knows?
I mean, honestly, though, he's probably happy. Look how things worked out. Like, it's...
Yeah, signed to a 3-year deal in the WWE. Have you heard the deal, by the way? Have any of the stuff about the deal?
No.
So I haven't heard money, but the big thing is
Well, he has to have been paid millions.
Yeah. But the big thing is the huge caveat.
Okay.
He can literally not get into any instance in backstage. If he does, no matter who starts it, he's up.
I don't feel like... Here's the thing. I don't think that there's going to be. And I feel like part of that is because there's a lot more... I believe there's a lot more maturity in the WWE locker room. It's not a bunch of kids that haven't been places. It's I feel like it's a lot of veterans back there that they don't They don't do that. And I feel like Punk knows that he's on, thin ice there because of his reputation, whether it's, whether it's all factual or whether or not it's embellished or whatever. I feel like he knows what's expected of him. And I know everybody's like, expecting him to slip up, and expecting something's going to ruffle him, and everything. But at the same time, I mean, so far so good. And I feel like even if this lasts, even if this just lasts a year, right? It's going to be good stuff for a year. And I feel like it'll work out. I really do. And then I feel like he'll get a Hall of Fame induction out of it. He's definitely going to get in there. And he brings eyeballs because he's like the most controversial man in wrestling right now. And
so he's got an interesting claim to fame off of this weekend alone.
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk is the highest selling merch seller for both major companies right now.
See, you can't tell me he doesn't draw at this point. I mean, that he doesn't make money for people.
I never said he didn't make money. I said he wasn't a good wrestler.
And I disagree. I mean, I feel,
he's almost to me at this point a modern day Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior never had matches like he had with Chris Jericho, with Brock.
Oh no, Lesnar. He can have good matches. I've seen him have really good matches.
Yeah, John Cena.
But I don't know if I could say honestly, I've seen him have really great matches since he came back.
His match with MJF was really good. The dog
collar
match.
Is that MJF or not? I mean, look at what MJF's done now, right? Look at the match quality MJF's been putting on his own with everybody.
Yeah, which is funny too, because there was a time where everybody thought he's a good talker, but he can't wrestle, right? He can't, he wasn't very good. They were talking about MJF, and then MJF was like, "Oh yeah, I'll show you," and then he's been putting on, masterpiece after masterpiece with everybody. So
his catchphrase is real. He's better than you when he knows it, or know it.
Yeah. But still, you put Punk in there with the right people, and it's going to be good. And even if it's not the best, I mean, look at somebody. I think the person that's probably the most that you can compare CM Punk to the most is Roddy Piper. Because think about it, Roddy Piper was controversial, right? He was, same way on the microphone. He was dropping pipe bombs long before CM Punk, was around. But
reality checks is what he called him.
Sure, right? And then, but Roddy Piper wasn't necessarily the best worker in the ring as far as, I mean, I can probably name, I can't name 5 great Roddy Piper matches if you really look at it. Like his match with Brett's probably the best one he ever had.
But you're not going to say him in WrestleMania 1?
It was a good match. Was it great? I mean, it had the aura of it, but I mean, okay, but even if you put that one in there, can you name 3 more? It's like that are great. Like,
I'm trying to think. Like, I'm don't get me wrong. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm trying to think of some great matches, and even like
great moments.
One of the most, I was going to say, the most infamous moment I would say, or one of the most infamous moments with him is the coconut with
Jimmy Snuka.
Jimmy Snuka. But I remember nothing of that match.
Right. Exactly. Well, that wasn't a match. That set up the match. But
what I'm saying, I remember the match that it was the one involved with it. So
right, exactly.
But that again, that doesn't mean a whole lot. Punk will draw. Punk will get people's asses to seats and to watch because it's the controversy as much as it is to see what he's going to do today. Right?
Did you hear that? I guess like his return the most viewed social media post in WWE history.
Yeah.
More than Stone Cold Steve Austin ever got, more than The Rock ever
They didn't have
got.
social media.
Well, I'm just saying, more than a John Cena post, more than a Roman Reigns post.
Yeah, but it's a different scenario, right? That this kind of storyline with all of the drama and everything else like going like that. Not to mention Punk doing his second return for a second company in the same year. You're going to have all of that being the right perfect storm for social media, right? That is exactly what social media is designed for. But you could have had that with anybody, right?
But
you could have built it at what we have, but not in the same vein. And social media wasn't in existence at the time.
Okay,
right?
well, Stone Cold returned 2 years ago? Last year?
Yes.
2 years ago?
2 years.
2 years ago?
Yep.
Okay. Social media was around then, and for his return, didn't do 70 million hits.
No, but it was expected to. Like there's a lot more actual expectation. Like there wasn't a lot of the I'm gonna say naysayers for his return as there was for Punk. I'm being in one of the naysayers as it was for this. So it was a big thing. And not to mention, I'm gonna guarantee you probably half of the interactions on those social media things are people messaging their buddies saying, "I told you so," on there, like somebody else I know.
But think of the views it gets where everyone's like, CM Punk's back, and they haven't watched wrestling in years, and they're like, what? Because here's the thing, like when he debuted in AEW, it got eyeballs. And it did bring up the ratings. And, by the way, they haven't been able to draw since he left. But, and the ratings have not been as high as when he was there. So clearly he moved the needle. And now they're like...
I think it was more timing and better storytelling at the time because their storytelling has gone down the crap around the same time he was gone.
Well, I mean, CM Punk's not there to pitch ideas. So, but...
Yeah, I think that you're going to find that his thing... Not saying that he didn't draw, but I don't think the sole reason for their downside and there's going to be only Punk. I think you would find that it's without Punk, even without Punk being there, they would have had a decent draw until things have changed.
I mean, the last AEW show. So the biggest AEW show they ever did was with Punk. 80,000 people, and Punk was there.
And Punk had nothing to do with it.
Oh, I don't say he had nothing to do with it. He was part of the roster.
I would say he had nothing to do with it as in reference to what you're meaning. He had nothing. He was no different in that point as being a part of it as much as Jack Perry was.
I don't know. Jack Perry was on the pre-show, and CM Punk was the real world champion.
The world champion was on the pre-show.
In a tag team match. Not
to
defend his title. CM Punk, and by their very definition, he was the real world champion. So, I mean, that's what they called it. So, which he's unbeaten for. So, I think he should have done the Ric Flair thing and shown up with the belt. He could have, it'd be like the real world champion. They could have distorted it, but I found it interesting, though.
I gotta ask you real fast. Yeah. Did you say "excuse me" when you asked AJ to move off of his fucking dick so you can get on there?
What?
You were so hyped up about fucking Punk. It's insane.
I probably haven't been this excited about a wrestler since Bret Hart. When Bret Hart was in his prime. And everything.
I feel that. I mean, I can see that for you. And I think that's the big thing. It's like I did like younger Punk, but I've never been a huge Punk fan, right? Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing for me. Like I really liked Bret, but I was never a huge Bret guy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's always going to be like that controversy for you and I. It's like I'm a Sean guy, you're a Bret guy. Mm-hmm. I'm not a CM Punk guy. I just don't understand the like for Punk that you have, and so many do. right? Because Punk is huge, and obviously he is with the amount of merch he's selling for both companies at the same time.
You can't say he's not iconic at this point in the history of wrestling. You know, it's like he's the most talked about guy there is right now.
Yeah, he's definitely on that. He's the most talked about worker in the business at this moment. Good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah, he almost has been for like the last year too, because I mean he's been in the headlines for good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing he does really well is that he creates all of this buzz around him to where it would be crazy not to take a chance on him and get those people talking. Because now, if you really look at WWE right now, oh my gosh, do they have momentum going into WrestleMania season? Because
yes, they do.
You've got Roman Reigns, right? You've got look at all the over guys that they've created now, or that they've got there that can lead to big money matches for WrestleMania. You've got Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Randy Orton just returned, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes. You've got Jey Uso. You've got the Judgment Day. With all of that, you've got CM Punk now. I mean, good Lord. Like you've got all of these guys. It's like, it might be the most stacked main event roster they've had since the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Whether or not, whatever your opinion is on Punk and everything, if you just look at WWE as a whole, no, it's like they didn't need Punk, but darn it, with Punk they're that much more. They're going to make so much more money, right? They're going to make so much more money. And I worry about AEW now. I really do, because if you look at just the kind of the perception right now, you've got Cody Rhodes left, which was a big hit to AEW, and they still feel that effect. Because I feel like if Cody Rhodes was there, the CM Punk, all the stuff in backstage would have never happened. Cody was that peacemaker that would have soothed everything over. And the Bucks and that they just weren't it. And then you had people like Jade Cargill leaving. You've got now you've got Punk leaving, even if he was fired, right? Look at their promotion took a hit. They're drawing, low crowds. Their ratings are in the toilet. It's really scary now. And I don't know if you heard this week, the other big news out of AEW, QT Marshall resigned, as which was helping train their guys.
Not just that, he was a producer backstage. And he was a talent relations guy, which is huge, right? Like, he was a core piece of stuff. So, and that was just a huge surprise it felt like out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, I feel like kind of the dominoes are falling, because I think with all of these guys, he's close with Cody, was probably close with Jade Cargill there, and then with Punk leaving, and they see that Punk's a big star right there, it makes AEW look bad, and the writing's probably on the wall because they're not using QT Marshall. I guess they wanted to be more featured as a wrestler, and there's just not a spot for him. And
I can't see QT coming to WWE. He's too old.
Right. I could see him maybe going to the Performance Center to help there or something, or being a producer or a backstage agent or something. I could see that.
I mean, I could see that, but I don't think they will. If he was wanting to, he left AEW because I could see him going to something like MLW.
Yeah, or maybe TNA.
TNA maybe. I mean, it's totally possible that he may go over to TNA, but I don't think that they'll feature him as much. I think something like MLW would feature him better, in that fashion. But
it's not.
Let's go and talk back more about Punk real fast.
Yeah.
So I was talking about earlier some of the thoughts of what could be the future for WrestleMania now.
Yes.
right? And we put a pin in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to let you know of a current rumor, very strong rumor that has been going around right now.
I heard two.
Is
So go ahead.
well, the one right now that I've heard is having it where Gunther does go against the Raw World Heavyweight Champion, whether it's Seth or whomever. And then also have Cody finishing the story against Roman and doing that story. But to give that big main event level match for Punk, which I'm sure that's part of their deal too, that wasn't brought up because he was so wanting a big WrestleMania match, like a main event match, is having him in Austin.
I've heard that rumor. That's
the most popular one I've heard around right now.
I've heard that one, and that would be huge because I know that there's people that said, yeah, that would have been great, 10 years ago, and that might be true. But if they could do a proper build for it, it could make sense, especially if CM Punk does the whole straight edge, and I'm better than you, thing. If he does that sort of thing against Austin, and Austin comes back to defend, WWE's honor because, but Punk would have to turn heel, right? He'd have to go into that heelish. Huh?
Punk is totally heel.
No, right now he's a babyface.
No, right now he's a welcome back Cotter. Right, everyone's happy to have him back. I think what they're going to do is over the next month to 2 months, going through Rumble and or up to Rumble, if not up to Elimination Chamber, they're going to be building a match between Seth and CM Punk, and the whole storyline is that Punk is a essentially a backstabbing bitch, right? He's a naysayer. He talks all this crap behind people's backs and kind of things. Because Seth has already mentioned that in the past that you have this guy who's talking crap about a company that made him and things like that. And Seth is a huge WWE guy, right? And so they're going to build up that honor for it and things. And I think that that's going to cause Punk to become heel or healer then in that storyline, or at least should. You're going to have simps like you who are going to still love him either which way. But.
Now, I heard two other rumors with Punk. I heard, obviously, they're building to a Punk Seth match. Part of it is that would main event night one of WrestleMania, that you'd have Punk and Seth main eventing night one, and then you've got Roman, which would be awesome too. But I heard also that they might do Punk and Seth at Royal Rumble, that they're going to do that there. And then I heard they want Punk feuding with Roman Reigns as soon as possible after he gets done with Seth, which I heard there's a possibility that they could shift gears and Punk could go to face Roman at WrestleMania instead of Cody, that he could take Cody's spot there.
If they do, they're doing it wrong.
I think that's the wrong time for Punk myself. I feel like it'd make more sense to either do Punk and Seth on night one or to do Punk and Austin in the main event of night one. Either one of those I'd be fine with. I'm really excited for WrestleMania this year because there's so many options there. We talked about the star power. It's basically, it's what's that term of it's a something of riches.
It's a I know what you're talking about. It just I had there for a second, lost it. It's a yeah. Anyhow,
it's they have all of this star power. They can do almost no wrong, really. I mean, because whatever they throw out there,
totally do wrong.
They could, but I don't think they're going to.
If they don't have Cody beating Roman at WrestleMania for the title, they've done it wrong.
Maybe.
They've built that story for over a year. Right? Cody is the number one face right now. even with CM Punk here, and if they kept CM Punk face, I'm telling you right now, Cody's still the bigger face. He's the face of the company, right? He's the number one face, and he needs to be the guy that takes Roman out at WrestleMania. If they don't do that, they're doing it wrong.
What if they do Roman and Cody again, and Roman wins again? Cody's done, right? He's almost buried at that point.
Essentially, yeah. Like at that point, what do? Like you can't do anything else with Cody. You can't push it to 41 because 41 wouldn't have the same ring as 40.
Right. I feel like if Cody loses to Roman again, he becomes Lex Luger I think in many people's eyes. You know, he chokes at the big one, you know, and it's like Luger with Yokozuna. You know, that's kind of what it becomes. And I don't know if he could recover from that. You know, but I mean, maybe the plan is, you know, for Roman to keep going and beat Hogan's record, and you know, what if he was to beat all the records and hold the title for 6 years instead of 3? Maybe we're only halfway through his reign.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You know, I don't think so. Not with Punk around, you know, because Punk's not going to sit by.
I think 40 is the right place for it. This is the perfect place for it. Because one, it's a huge WrestleMania, right? It's going to be the iconic WrestleMania. Be like, oh, WrestleMania 40, where Cody beats Roman for that belt finally after all this time. Roman finally loses after nearly 4 years, right? 40 is the perfect number for that. The only next one up would be 50, and he's not holding it for another 10 years. God, I hope not, at least.
Remember.
I know you're going to bring it up every bloody time you can.
Like,
every bloody time you can.
There's no way he makes it to next year's WrestleMania. Then 2 years later, he's still holding the belt, and you're just like, well, he's losing to Cody, you know. And then Cody loses, and here we are, almost a year later, and it's like, I don't know, like. Would it
there's only so much leeway though, like you can give somebody in a scenario like this. It's like, all right, okay, like there's only so much dick teasing you can do before somebody walks away, right?
Well, I mean, you know, when San Martino held the belt for that long, or when Bob Backlund held the belt for that long, it's like, I know it was different times, right? Because if social media and everything and was big back then, there's no way they would have held it that long, because people's attention spans, like, I'm honestly super surprised that Roman's held it this long, because that seems in today's wrestling, that seems like an eternity.
I mean, JBL held it before this, like, was one of the longest ones to hold a title. Yeah, a year. Yeah,
1 year.
And that was massive.
Actually, just shy of a year, but still, it was like, yeah, that was a long time. It was like when you held the title for a year in today's wrestling, in the modern era, it was like, oh my gosh, that's a long title reign. For 3 years, it's like, are we at 3 years in? Like,
it's over 3 years. We're coming up to 4 years.
Yeah, we're almost at 4, aren't we? Yeah, it's crazy. It's I don't know. Should Cody probably win the belt? Yes. Do I have complete faith that that's going to happen 100%? Never. You know, Punk has proven never say never.
It's true, and I think that's the magic of this, is because we cannot 100% say that Cody's going to win this.
There's that doubt.
Yeah, there's that doubt, and it's not just a little doubt. Like, after last year's WrestleMania, I would go with. I probably still go with like 80-20. Cody's winning this, but 20 is a lot more than like what Zoe Starks had against Rhea Ripley. Right? There's like a 2% chance. So that just tells you like how much of a huge difference it is in the believability of us, that they're going to work us in a way that it's going to be like, Cody might not do this again. So, but I don't think Punk needs a belt to have a huge WrestleMania.
He doesn't. Do you think then, because they can go 2 ways, because if he does go right into Seth, it is possible that Punk could beat Seth. and get the belt and go on to main event, WrestleMania. Not against Austin, it wouldn't work. But
No.
if they hold off Punk and Seth for night one of WrestleMania, I think Punk's winning the belt. If that was the night one main event, I think Punk wins it there. If it's at Rumble, I think there's a good chance that it ends in some sort of like a screwy finish where it's a DQ or something like that. I feel like there's a good chance it doesn't end in a clean pinfall.
I don't think the Raw title is changing hands either which way at Rumble or at WrestleMania.
You think Seth is going past WrestleMania with the belt?
I think whoever has the belt at WrestleMania goes that far. The only thing Seth has to have it by then. You could totally have Seth drop the belt within the next 3 months, going into WrestleMania and build a story for something at WrestleMania at this point. But I think whoever has it retains it through WrestleMania. And the reason being is if you're having Roman finally lose to whomever, you don't want that to be the other belt change that happens. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Either way, it's probably going to be one of the more interesting roads to WrestleMania that we've had because there's so much uncertainty now, and Punk definitely shook things up. Really quick, just to end on this, what did you think of Punk's promo on Raw? You watched it, I assume.
I did. For a Punk promo, fairly weak.
It was very tame, right? It was. I've heard people say it was safe, right? It was a very safe PG promo, right? So
it was. It didn't feel like I said, a Punk promo. I felt like Punk should have came out and not to directly be a dick, but like throw a little shade on things. And he did a little bit. Like he made reference to the after the show went off the air stuff with Seth and Drew, right? Which they also made mention to in a promo earlier in the night. For all who know, while at the end of the SummerSlam or Survivor Series, when Punk was getting his accolades, Seth is being held back by Michael Cole of all people, right, from rushing him and flipping him off like crazy, right? And before he comes out, Drew actually runs out with the covering his head, just in pain, obviously looking visibly pissed off, which so much so that he was actually left after throwing a bunch of stuff in the back. He left the arena after the show. So there's a lot of controversy in there. The one with Seth is a work.
Right.
The 100%. One with Drew is mostly a work. So
yeah.
That being said, I think I think it's a two-part aspect. One, I think he was trying to make sure that people don't expect these pipe bombs every time, so he was trying to keep it a bit safer, and he didn't want to turn that heel promo over just yet. I think he's waiting in the wings to drop a heel promo. And two, I think he was being not censored, but handheld a little bit by Bruce Pritchard, because he was actually in charge of Raw. Triple H was not on Raw. He was in LA working on the Raw deal for TV and stuff like that. So I think Pritchard kind of made him hold it, had a little bit more hand holding than letting him just fly off the handle doing what he wanted. That being said, there were some aspects to it that were there. But the way that promo read was, I want you to hit these marks and really push on the everyone's happy to see me spot. That's exactly what we got.
And I feel there was two things that really surprised me, though. The first one, where CM Punk, basically says, that he's home, right? Which was kind of interesting to kind of go back on, CM Punk said a lot of stuff about WWE, like his promo when when he debuted in AEW, you know, he talked about how he left pro wrestling, you know, when he left Ring of Honor, you know, and then he returned to it in AEW. Probably thinks differently of that now. But so that kind of hit me, you know, when he said he was home. It almost felt like, okay, so he took the money and he's doing what scripted promo. Like, I feel like that was somebody else wrote that for it, and it was completely, you know, a promo that was given to him rather than his own words.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it
what it
wasn't word
felt.
for word his promo, like something written more as somebody was a guideline, like I was saying earlier.
Mhm.
It's like, you need to hit this in this fashion, right? Like, say it naturally as best you can, but you need to be pushing on that this is home. People are happy to have me back, except for these guys,
Mhm.
which is that whole promo.
The part that felt like the most like, oh, this is what he really believes, is actually after his actual promo, when he looked into the camera and said the line of, "I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money." And that line, I felt, came straight from him. And
Yes, it totally did.
And I don't think that was part of the bullets that he was given. I felt and people have kind of said that they have mixed feelings on that, because it's like, you just got done saying everyone's happy to see you and everything, and then you said, "Oh, I'm not here to make friends." It's like, wait a minute, you know, that basically took back everything. You know, it's, you know, that, oh, you are there for the money, you know.
Yeah.
The other part, though, that if you really look at it, and you've kind of touched on it a little bit, that I love about that is, yes, he cut a safe promo, but by him saying that one line right at the end, it gave that edge to, okay, he's saying these words, but the real CM Punk is lurking there, you know, and it's he couldn't help himself, you know, and it's going to lead to like a slow burn heel turn, you know, and I honestly believe, you know, CM Punk is best as a heel. I feel like, you know, babyface Punk, okay, it's good for a little bit, but after a while, I want to see that edginess. That's the CM Punk that I love. I want to
Straight
see.
edginess.
Sure, whatever. I want to see. Yes, exactly. I want to see CM Punk cut those heelish promos and really, you know, take the jabs. I like that Punk, and I know that's gotten him into trouble before, but as long as it's really building to something, you know, and it's going to be money. And I feel like he can draw more as a heel than he can as a babyface. That's just my 2 thoughts on that.
I agree, and this is like exactly what I was saying. I think the program he's going to do with Seth is going to bring that heel promo over for when that heel turn that needs to be done as a slow burn. If you start now, right? So beginning of December, going to the Rumble, which is mid-January, you've got 6 weeks to slowly build that through, and even have it where it's like a face-to-face ish style match going into it. And I don't know if you have him heel turn in the match or after the match, but right there, after the Rumble, after Royal Rumble, that's when the heel Punk is out. But you build it as I'm the friendly, nice neighbor kind of character. Like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be back. Oh, these people all love me. I love them. And then as you're going through, you turn it, it's like, I don't need these sons of bitches. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the money. That's the only thing I care about is money and the title. But you build that slowly through that. It's the nice guy to everybody else, but at home is an asshole.
And if he does go on to main event WrestleMania, that, you know, even night 1 or whatever, he can cut the promo of like, I came back to claim what should have been mine from the beginning, you know. And the promos, I'm waiting for those types of promos. It's like, give us give us that. But I'm okay with the slow burn, because this could be brilliant storytelling if he does the happy-go-lucky, and then you can slowly see those seeds being planted, and then it happens. It'll be money. It'll be money. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm here for the journey for sure.
I am very much in that same way. Sorry, 1 second. I'm very much in that same way. I'm super excited to see how everything's going to go with Punk and the story that's going to be told. As long as it doesn't derail some of the established stories that are going on.
Sure. Right? I know you'd be upset if Punk got the spot against Roman at WrestleMania and Cody didn't get it.
I would not be the only one. There'd be a ton of people.
Right. There would be. I think that would create a lot of backlash, but I mean, I don't know. We will see. I honestly think it should be like, I think the Austin thing would come out of nowhere, I feel like, because it would feel kind of rushed. I honestly feel like Cody and Roman main eventing night 2 and Punk and Seth, I feel like that should be your two night main event, because I'd be amped for both of those.
See, I think it should be Seth and Drew.
That doesn't excite me. I honestly think it should be Drew and Jay. I feel like that's the WrestleMania matchup.
Drew and Jay would be a great WrestleMania match too. But with the story that they're already doing with Drew and everything else, I mean, Drew and Jay would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. But and it has the story behind it.
It does. There's a variety of stories you can go with. That's what's so great about things right now, right? I just don't know if I'd have Punk be the main event.
I think he has to be. I think he has to be.
I don't think so.
I think he has so much momentum there. You go with what's hot.
I think it's a bad morale point. Right? You bring in this guy who has got a ton of issues stemming from where he was at before and everything else like that. There's a case to be said that, you know, one way or the other, whether he was the cause or he happened to be just a lightning rod of all of it. Mm-hmm. But if you're every one of these guys, especially the guys right now who are making the money, again, an example like Drew, right? Drew hasn't signed his contract again for the extension. His contract ends after WrestleMania, right? So if you want to keep a guy like Drew McIntyre, and you're not even putting Drew in the main event, but like having this other guy who's been talking all this crap, who for years about the business that you're in, and everything else like that, now being the main event to come in just because he's the hot hand, like that would be a sour pill for a lot of people to swallow.
I honestly feel like Drew's leaving. I feel like there's not going to be a lot to keep him. I feel like it's almost too good of a timing issue for him to not renew and then to debut in AEW at their Wembley Stadium show All In next year. You know, or be part of that build. I feel like Tony Khan would offer Drew a ton of money because that would just make it so that they do another record, you know, gate at Wembley Stadium. If they've got Drew McIntyre in the build and they've got Will Ospreay, you know, in that build, I feel like, and the timing would be right too, because if, let's say Drew, you know, leaves in April or whatever it is, and then he probably, you know, let's say he has a 90-day no compete or something like that. I don't know what the situation. I mean, I guess if his contract just runs out, he'd be free to go ever, but he'll probably want to take some time off, spend some time with family, whatever, even if there's not a 90 days.
Which he's already talked about wanting to do.
Right. Well, April to May, May to June, June to July, right in time for Wembley Stadium build, you know, or Wembley Stadium debut. that's my prediction on that. But that's another show as far as predictions for next year goes. But
Right.
yeah. I'm excited though. Everything's the next few months are going to be very interesting for both promotions to see what happens.
Everything right now building up to WrestleMania is going to be really exciting. There are a lot of great stories and opportunities that can be done. And like we talked about some tonight, we'll be talking more about some of that stuff as the end of the year is going to happen. So make sure to subscribe and hang out with us for that. Just subscribe to wherever you get podcasts at for all of that. All right. Well, that being said, let's go ahead and run to the end of the year for Devotion Championship Wrestling. Our upcoming shows on December 8th, we will be right back at Ace's Saloon for bar fights on December 8th. And then the following night, we will be doing right here in Salt Lake City our 5th year anniversary show featuring the likes of EC3, Kenny King. Wow, my brain just turned off on his name. Kenny King, as well as the Man with Kids, Heath Slater. Will all be at that show. Plus, many more of your favorite wrestlers from DCW will also be at that show. It'll be a huge show. Tickets are still available, but are going fast. December 15th, we will be right back up in Ogden for Tussle Time 9 at Kamikazes. And then we will be here in Salt Lake for the last show of the year, our New Year's Bash at Liquid Joe's, December 28th. You can get tickets and follow everything about Devotion Championship Wrestling on our social medias. That's going to be Facebook, Instagram at Devotion Championship Wrestling, and DCW Salt Lake City on X/Twitter. Also, you can hit us up, tell us what your thoughts about Punk or Survivor Series in general as the show, which I thought was really good, and I know that Psycho thought it was a good show too. You can hit us up directly by reaching out to us on our social medias at Be Hero Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can reach out to me directly at Mike Burke DCW on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and Mike Burke Pro on X/Twitter. You can also reach out to Psycho at Psycho Wrestling on the Facebook. All right, Mr. Psycho. Anything else?
Nope. I think that's good for today. I'm celebrating Christmas early, it looks like. So
all right, guys. Well, we will catch you guys right back here next week for another great episode. Until then, have a great night. And for the rest of Be Hero Media, this has been me, this has been Psycho, and that's us tapping out. Have a good night, guys.